Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. This is The Late Show with your host, Jan Brando, live from Los Angeles, where we are going to talk about watches. We are going to talk about the new July online auction by Monaco Legend Group. Um, Monaco Legend Group is led by Davide Parmigiani and his son, in collaboration with Claude Cohen. Um, it's in the name, but I'll still say it. Of course, it is in Monaco, Monte Carlo. But this particular sale, the July auction, is an online exclusive with all the pieces. I think some 120 lots, starting with no reserve. There's some very interesting pieces that we will get into, that we will talk about, but I want to kind of talk about, discuss, or at least address a few new releases before we get there. We talked a lot about Moza last night, and we were specifically talking about some stunning purple dials that they had made, some ruby dial endeavors they had made last year in a limited edition for the 50th year of the Emirates. And here's another limited edition that apparently just came out for the Platinum Jubilee of Sincere Fine Watches. Sincere is a watch retail store, a big name of in luxury retail, luxury watch retail, from Singapore. I believe they are also Singapore's oldest, having been founded, you guessed it, in 1954. Since 2024 is their Platinum Jubilee. They have now expanded to some 20 boutiques, an entire network that spans Malaysia, Singapore, Taiwan, and Thailand, apparently. And they decided to celebrate their 70th anniversary with this limited edition of the Moza Perpetual Calendar, the Perpetual One, as it is sometimes called. In this particular case, it is in the Pioneer case. It uses two distinct materials, in fact. By and large, this is a pink gold watch, or red gold as they call it. But the insides of the lugs are in DLC treated titanium as well. So you can see here too, I think there's a nice look from, what happened there? There's a nice look from the back of the watch as well. Where is it? Okay, that's crazy. I'm pretty sure I saw it. It may well be on their Instagram account, and I will pull that up in the meantime. While you're taking a look at that piece, it has a purple Grandfeu enamel dial, The case size is nearly 43 millimeters. 42.8, I believe, is the official number. 42.8 millimeters in diameter. The Pioneer case has a water resistance of 120 meters, so quite a sporty approach. And caliber HMC 808, which we have talked about yesterday a little bit, in addition to all its virtues of being more or less foolproof in terms of setting it, in terms of correcting it for the dates of the perpetual calendar, it also has a minimum of 7 days, an entire week of power reserve. And that date indicator right here, in addition to being relatively large, is also a flash date, so to speak, meaning that it jumps right at midnight. So that's a quite precise and cool aspect of Mose perpetual calendars. Oftentimes, you will see that the indication of the month is actually done by a micro hand that is part of the hand stack, right? Since there are 12 months, as there are 12 hours. Here, however, the indication for the month is actually given its separate window, its separate opening. And I think that has also a lot to do, of course, with the particular arrangement of the dial, right? Since this is a Kampfe enamel dial, they wanted to let it get rid of, in fact, all the fixtures on the dial. Of course, they have kept the power reserve indicator. Of course, they have kept the seconds hand at 6 o'clock, even though there is no scale for those seconds. You'll still see that hand making a full revolution in a minute. But I guess it would have been a little untidy to have that usual indication of the month with the smaller hand under the hour and minutes hands. So they have taken advantage of this oversized case to give the most real estate and the full glory into that Kampfe enamel dial. You guys know that they had more recently come out with a blue version of this enamel dial. For the Endeavor case, which is a little bit smaller, of course, at 42 millimeters in its current sizing, featuring a tantalum case. I think this is also a very strikingly beautiful watch. And it has kind of like an anchoring dimension in terms of those double indices at 12 o'clock and an abbreviated version of those same double indices at 6. But still, the idea is to give as much real estate as possible to this uniquely executed Grand Feu enamel dial, which has a very distinct gradation as well, starting at the lightest shade of blue at the center and kind of gradually darkening as we reach the periphery. Here it's a little bit different. We have a larger two-part case that uses red gold with DLC treated titanium accents. We have kind of that fumé purple dial, which follows the same principle of gradation, starting from the lightest at the center to the darkest on the periphery. But we don't have any indices or any hour markers whatsoever in this particular case, which means that the indication of the month is actually carried over to an additional window that finds its place to the left of the dates at 3 o'clock. Ryan Joffrey, how are you doing, man? One, you see it. I don't know how to read some of these names. I do apologize. If you can spell it out for me, I will make sure to pronounce it properly. Ryan says, you need to do another Bond stream ASAP. The tuxedo I have mentioned the other night is a close approximation to the Casino Royale tux. You know what I will do? That's too far away, though. I was gonna say maybe I will do something like a Bond-themed stream, maybe from a special location where I will wear some sort of black tie or something. But I will think about it. I'll think about it. We have to, we have to come up with a theme, with a topic, because even though I started and I was more focused and certainly much more thoroughly prepared for the Rolexes and Omegas when I was talking about the watches, we ended up covering a lot of the ones that have made an appearance in the franchise over the 6 different actors and 25 official movies. So we can't just do watches. I think, we covered quite a bit of different outfits in terms of suits, in terms of the black tie outfits, the tuxedos, the dinner jackets, whatever you want to call them. Yeah, maybe we can do something that is more focused on clothes, though, where we will be a little more detail oriented, like where we will talk about shoes a little bit, where we'll talk about the braces, the accessories, the ties, etc., because that's not something that I really paid a lot of attention to, or that I talked in detail. Coming back to the Sincere Platinum Jubilee version of the Pioneer Perpetual Calendar by H. Moser et Compagnie, Moser Watches. This is a 20-piece limited edition, apparently, and the pricing stands at 130,000 Singapore dollars. That is around 96,000 in US dollars. I mean, again, these are extremely beautiful watches. I really like the legacy of that movement, which goes, in fact, which predates the current ownership of Moza by the Mailan family. It's a movement that was originally designed by Andreas Strehler, who is now focused on making his own watches, but has over the years designed and conceived many interesting movements for a variety of watchmakers, including, by the way, Grönefeld, if I'm not mistaken, in addition to Moza. And many others, some of which are, in fact, more mainstream brands too. And it was, I think, when the Moza Perpetual first came out in 2006, if I'm not mistaken, it won acclaim almost right after, and that was when it was given the award for the best complicated watch in the GPHG, in the Grand Prix d'Horlogerie de Genève in year 2006. Let me see, because when we were in fact talking about some of these pieces last night, especially with Nate Dogg broaching the topic first, we had said that there are some great deals when it comes to the Moza Perpetual calendar. Now, the styling of these watches is a lot different, of course, to some of the more recent pieces that have come out within this genre. That being said, there are some stunning examples of the piece that are more akin to more conservatively designed dress pieces. There are examples of even the Pioneer, but there are plenty of versions with the Endeavor. In fact, in a smaller case size, as far as I know, these earlier examples are more around 41 millimeters in diameter. And as you can see, they have that micro hand under the hand stack for the indication of the month, a subdial for the seconds at 6 o'clock, a power reserve indicator at 9 o'clock, and then that big date indicator at 3. This is a pink gold piece, kind of like an opaline white dial that's listed right under 25,000 with the leap year indication shown through the exhibition case back embedded onto the bridge plates of the movement. But there are certainly some very interesting deals to come by if you are more interested, if you are more invested in the simplified, distilled expression of this particular complication, if you are more passionate about having this sort of a contemporary complication in a more conservative enclosure, so to speak. The Endeavor, the older generations of the Endeavor are amazing, and you can find it in a variety of iterations, like this one, for example, which has like a fumé gray dial, again in a pink gold case. Those were Endeavor Perpetual ones with a black dial, again around the same price point. A white gold version with a silver dial, which I think looks amazing. Maybe there's not much contrast, but very serious looking watch, and it's very subtle about it too. You know, for anyone who just takes a quick glance at this watch, it just looks like a time and date piece, but it is actually a perpetual calendar, which shows you the date and the month at a relatively quick glance. And it is one of the most precise and easy to use versions of the perpetual calendar. So it's really a great piece. And there are, as I mentioned, some examples of the Pioneer, which are not all that much more expensive. And you will see in certain versions of the Pioneer, not always, because there are versions of the Pioneer with a smaller hand as well. They do take advantage of the bigger case size and therefore the larger dial they get by using another aperture, another window on the dial to show the month. And you see it's an incredible price point for the kind of watch you're getting, certainly in comparison to how much these watches actually list for, which at the point of retail is, I think, more than 70,000 US dollars. So that's quite a discount that you are getting. I do want to talk about one more new release before we get the ball rolling, and that's the new Baltic MR roulette. I'll take advantage of this to take a quick break as well. I'll be back in 2 minutes. Please hit the like button. In the meantime, if you have any questions, if there's anything else that you would like to bring up, please don't hesitate to do that. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. We are back. Thank you for being so patient. This is basically some new colorways, you might say, for a watch that is already existing. As you guys know, Baltic has had a line of dress watches, Calatrava styled dress pieces that are powered by a Chinese made quote unquote seagull micro rotor movement. I have been just told that MR actually refers to a micro rotor. I've always thought, and I don't know if that's intentional, I don't know if they're going for the pun. I've always thought that they were going for the MR as in Mr. Angle, where, you know, it's a reference to just a classic looking gentleman's dress watch. Maybe I just ran with that reading a little too quickly. But anyway, the primary reference of MR is, in fact, the micro rotor movements, which is housed in this classic 36 millimeter case, 36 in diameter, 44 millimeters lug to lug. The overall thickness of the watch is right under 10 millimeters, which makes it wonderfully sleek as well. It's a very vintage inflected watch. So in fact, it has like a domed crystal, which adds a little bit to the height. But again, it stands right under 10 millimeters in total, which is quite reasonable, actually, again, considering that slight curvature of the case and the fact that it has an exhibition case back that shows off this seagull or Hangzhou caliber 5000A micro rotor. Now, the classic design had this off-center small seconds combined with slightly oversized Breguet numerals with a variety of classic kind of grained pattern single color dials. They do in fact kind of come across as a two-tone in either case in terms of the dial, because of the variety of finishing that those different parts of the dial exhibit. And the price point is right under $600. So for, you know, for a dress watch to play around with, I think it's a pretty interesting price point, and certainly worth checking out if you want to somehow maybe if you have the urge to expand your collection in that direction, you know, smaller sized pieces, dress pieces, but you don't want to invest thousands of dollars to get a piece. You know, if you're interested in dress watches, but you feel like you are, for the most part, underdressed, yet you still want to have something to play around with, something that is an outlier in your collection, I think these Baltic pieces are just great. They did come out with a new line, basically called the Roulette, which takes after this possibly unique historic Calatrava, a reference 96 with this unique dial. That one actually has, of course, not only leaf-styled hands, but also sweep center seconds, and a kind of two-tone silver dial, more of a black and white color scheme overall. And they had done, I think it was last year, I want to say, they had done a collaboration with A Collected Man, the curator of some secondhand pieces. It was, in fact, apparently September 2022, almost 2 years ago now. They had come out with this roulette design, which interprets or which relays that vintage Calatrava dial in a limited edition, and with a two-tone blue dial that is, of course, quite distinct from the original Patek from which it was inspired, by which it was inspired. Now, that 300-piece limited edition, in fact, became part of the lineup in 4 different colorways, and the price point remains the same, whether you choose the classic dials with the oversized Breguet numerals, or this unique roulette in salmon, blue, silver, or black. Everything is still priced at 545 euro, which is under 600 in US dollars. Dr. Bob's Nightmare. How are you doing, man? Looks like a pie pan dial. I can see that, I guess. Madman says, these Baltics are really nice. Got to see some in person. Beautiful designs, very solid quality for the price. I think, that 600 is a decent price point. You guys know I really like Merci as well, which is another French brand for some of the Calatrava styled watches that they design. The model's name is LMM01, and they have a few different variations of it, and that's priced more or less in this same range as well. Merci is actually primarily a kind of department store of sorts in Paris, but they do have a range of watches which rarely use some quartz-powered movements, but largely have hand-wound Celita movements that I think, I think they deserve that price point as well. And I would say a lot of the same things about Baltic as well, which perhaps has more exciting designs, a little bit more original designs, whereas Merci's range of watches is more muted. It's more, it's more toned down. It's simpler. much more basic in a good way. I mean, I have one of these. I have the Archie watch, the one that is also inspired by a vintage Calatrava in terms of this three-tone silver sector dial, and that does make a very interesting and exciting modern design, even though the original is all the way back from the 30s. And I can say the same thing about this, right? The roulette dial Patek Philippe Calatrava reference 96 may well have been from the 30s itself. That being said, this particular design today, I think, is very exciting and very contemporary. So I really appreciate what Baltic has been doing. I also was a huge fan of this Prismic series of watches that they just came out with. Apparently, they're sold out of all of them. These were a little more expensive, right around €1,000, coming with proper bracelets, mesh styled, and kind of, again, replicating without shamelessly stealing, replicating the style of cocktail watches, these kinds of integrated bracelets, dress watches that some of the prestige brands were really famous for in the 70s. I really liked the idea. I thought the dials were a little too loud for my personal taste. That's why I wanted to forego these, but I think just very sexy looking pieces. And I like the fact that they also went with a relatively integrated looking design, but with removable bracelets, so you can actually wear the watch on a leather strap, which looks, I think, just as good, if not possibly better. But you guys know that I'm a little biased towards leather straps overall than the average collector, than the average enthusiast, because bracelet watches have been all the rage for quite some time. Now, we are, in fact, going to talk about the Monaco Legend Group July online auction. I want to start with the watch that is actually in my thumbnail. That's an oversized Universal Genève chronograph, which I like a great deal. So let me just switch there. Please hit the like button as this is lot 92 of some, again, 120 lots. you guys know my particular disclaimer always about these kinds of watches. I mean, the watch is from 1942. It's an oversized chronograph in stainless steel with a black dial. I don't think I need to say so much more. There is a good chance that it may have been commissioned for military-related purpose. Now, of course, certain versions of the Université Genève Concours chronographs that are commissioned for such purposes are also inscribed, are also engraved on the case back with the related issue numbers that indicate it as a property of the Reichsluftfahrtministerium, the Nazi Ministry of Aviation. There's no such indication or no such markings here, so I don't want to simply paint everything with a single brush. I don't know if this watch has a similar provenance. If it in fact has a military provenance, there's no clear sign, there's no specific sign or feature that relates it back to the Nazis at all, but I think it still needs to be said. Otherwise, it's the kind of case design that the Italians very much love calling padellone, because it is, both in terms of the shape and in terms of the sizing of it, has the look of this large frying pan. Even the lugs also are reminiscent of the Patek Padellone, which was in fact the first generation of Patek Philippe self-winding perpetual calendars, the reference 3448. So I really love the case shape. It's a 46 millimeter piece, and I believe it also has, and that would be another indicator of a mil-spec piece. I think it has soldered lugs. That's why they went with this particular genre of a leather strap, which wraps around those soldered spring bars, rather than, of course, being attached to them in some other way. Patek, Chris, nice to see you, man. I am also very hopeful, Madman, to see what they're going to do with it. Apparently, they are still almost a couple of years away from the official launch, from the official release of these watches. Apparently, their purchase of the brand name attracted enough attention and was already on the verge of being publicly revealed by other sources. So they had to come out and get ahead of it. And that's why they actually went with the release of the news before they did, before they were even remotely close to release the watches. I have, in fact, an entire playlist on this particular point on the revival of Universal Genève. So I will share that link in the chat if you guys are ever interested. There's also a great episode with none other than Eric Wind. So you might be interested in it. All right. All of that being said, this is an oversized 46 millimeter version of a military-styled Universal Genève compacts with a black dial, beautiful slender syringe hands, 3 registers, including the 12-hour counter at 6 o'clock, 30-minute totalizer at 3 o'clock, and continuous running seconds at 9, Arabic numerals, and a tachymeter on the periphery of that oversized dial. The Padalone styled case, the oversized chronograph case, seems to be also quite well preserved. And again, as I mentioned, it also has those soldered lugs with fixed spring bars. So the leather strap that comes with it, that is fitted with the watch, is that wraparound style to accommodate those fixed bars. This is lot 92. The piece had a pre-auction estimate set in the range between 10,000 to 20,000 euro, and it is currently being bid at 1,600 euro. The auction started earlier today, and it is going to conclude at 5 a.m. Pacific, 8 a.m. On the East Coast on July 22nd. So we are almost full 2 weeks away from that, 13 days away from that. Speaking of chronographs with legacy, with an interesting provenance, here is a monopusher chronograph, a single button chronograph, which is very neatly integrated onto the crown by Longines. The piece is from the 30s. It is housed in a 33, in a yellow gold case with a 33 millimeter diameter. And the piece also has a beautiful enamel dial that has multiple scales on it. There's a pulsometer that is graduated for 30 pulsations. There's an asthmometer that is graduated for 5 respirations. And I believe there's also a tachymeter. Or not, no. Those are actually parts of the pulsometer and asthmometer. These are the kind of scales that are, of course, that distinguish this piece as a doctor's watch. The pulsation scale is inscribed in red, and the respiration scale is written in black, and it wraps around that pulsometer scale along the periphery of the dial. And you have Breguet-styled hands in heat-blued stainless steel, as well as centrally deployed seconds hands, a 30-minute totalizer at 3 o'clock, and continuous running seconds at 9 o'clock, perfectly aligned with the crown. These complete the picture of this classic doctor's watch with teardrop lugs in a 33 millimeter yellow gold case. That was, in fact, lot one. Estimated value of the watch is between 5,000 to 10,000 US dollars. And it is currently being bid at 500 euros. I'm sorry, the pre-auction estimate is 5,000 to 10,000 euros, and the watch is currently being bid at 50,000. Was lot one for a classic Longines doctor's watch with two distinct scales for a single button chronograph, a pulsometer, and an asthmometer. As always, I will do this. I will drop the link right here in the chat. So if you have any particular requests, if you want me to highlight any specific lots, if you want me to talk about a watch that I have not yet highlighted, that I have not talked about, feel free to send in a super chat with the lot number, and I would be more than happy to delve right in and bring as much historical and horological detail as I can into the discussion. We're looking at lots 5 now. This is Movado piece, signed with the name of the jeweler that sold it. It is a very elegant yellow gold case with kind of like spider lugs. The case is actually two-tone when you can look at it from the profile here, yellow gold and stainless steel, with the lugs and bezel being rendered in yellow gold, where the case largely remains, the core of the case remains in stainless steel. A two-tone dial with Breguet numerals, a moon phase indicator at 6 o'clock, which is surrounded by the subdial for the seconds, and right under the signature of the jeweler at 12 o'clock, there are two apertures for the indication of the month and the day of the week. The date, after all, is actually indicated along the periphery of the dial, and it is inscribed in blue. This is a Movado triple calendar with a moon phase indicator, reference 14922, retailed by Wright, K and Company. A 34 millimeter yellow gold stainless steel two-tone case. With spider-like lugs. This is lot number 5 for a Movado triple calendar with a moon phase indicator in two-tone with a pre-auction estimate set between 3,000 to 6,000 euro. The starting bid is at 500 and no reserve. Dr. Bob's nightmare is walking his dog. Yeah, this is, I like the two-tone Daytonas of that period. Madman. The racing dials, I think, are underrated. They are certainly underappreciated by the market, we can say that. But I have a soft spot for them. You know, it doesn't even have to be as interesting as yours. You know, it doesn't have to be blue. I like a lot of the black racing dials as well. Moving along, we have one of my favorite watches in this particular auction. This is lot number 8. I don't know if they did this on purpose, but it is, after all, an Audemars Piguet ultra-thin perpetual calendar housed in an octagonal case with an integrated bracelet. Of course, it is decidedly not a Royal Oak, but this is an AP with an octagonal case, and it does, in fact, it is in fact powered by the same movement that the Royal Oak perpetual calendars had been fitted with for generations. In fact, up until last year, when they finally discontinued it, when they finally gave it a send-off with the release of the John Mayer perpetual calendar that is supposed to mark the last appearance of this particular caliber base. What you have here is a 36 millimeter octagonal yellow gold case with an integrated bracelet in matching material, kind of a woven style of bracelet, kind of like a wicker basket kind of look to it. I really like the balance of these dials visually, kind of like a 4 subdial look, or rather 3 subdials for the calendrical indications, counterbalanced with the appearance of a moon phase indicator at 6 o'clock, which is complemented by the indication for the month at 12 o'clock, pointer date at 3 o'clock, and the day of the week at 9 o'clock. The three subdials for the calendrical indications are ever so subtly recessed to the dial, which I think plays well with the opening of the moon phase indicator. And I also always liked the fact that those pointers for the calendar were in heat blued stainless steel, which again plays along wonderfully with the backdrop of the night sky for that moon phase indicator. This is lot number 8 for an AP ultra thin perpetual calendar. Integrated design with an octagonal case and woven style bracelets in 18 karat yellow gold. The reference number is 5557. The pre-auction estimate was set between 15,000 to 30,000 euro, and the watch is currently being bid at 2,400 euro. Jilden, those are not Breguet styled numerals. Breguet style is, let's see if we can, yeah, the Movado has a Breguet style. It's a more stylized font. This particular font, one easy way of telling it, although I'm not sure if this is always the case, is that plus-like look of the 4. You see that tail of the 4 that looks like a plus or a cross. But Breguet numerals are in that distinct font because even though Arabic numerals have been used on watch dials for, since time immemorial, let's say, it was Breguet that kind of popularized this particular font. So his name has stuck to it in the same way that those apple-shaped, what the French call pomme hands, have become Breguet hands over time. Now, Arabic numerals are otherwise, again, ubiquitous on watch dials, but what are called racing dials for the Daytona, and quite frankly, I don't exactly know the origin of the name, rather who coined the nickname for it. These are Arabic numerals that are radially arrayed around the center of the dial, because you will see, especially in the 5-digit era, you will see precious metal versions of the Zenith Daytonas with Arabic numerals, but those are actually not aligned so perfectly around the center of the dial. They are not arrayed in this radial manner. They're kind of like, applied in a blocky way. In fact, let me just find it. You'll see. So yeah, to my knowledge, these are not necessarily called racing dials, even though I'm sure some people still call these racing dials as well. But when someone talks about the Daytona with a racing dial, they are usually talking about the 6 digits, in-house caliber, precious metal or two-tone Daytonas that have these radially arrayed Arabic numerals around the center of the dial. So that's what is called a racing dial. They're not just any kind of Arabic numerals. They're most certainly not Breguet numerals. They are the radially arrayed Arabic numerals that you find on the dials of precious metal and two-tone Daytonas in 6 digits. Thank you so much, Jilden. Thank you for that super sticker, Dr. Bob's Nightmare. Dr. Bob, you're too kind. I mean, if you're in that kind of situation, you really don't have to sweat it too much. But I do appreciate your support. Dr. Bob is also a member of the channel, which means he has access to exclusive content, an ever-expanding archive that gives you nice 15-minute snippets in the form of a market overview that has a particular kind of focus, always around a particular model, design, or complication, showing you 3-4 different options and always trying to see where you can find the best kinds of deals for these sorts of pieces. I love the use and the love that the Danny, the Certi Danny emoticon or emoji has been getting. I really appreciate that. Just I should get around to it and reach out to Mookie specifically and have him make me more. I hope he would help me out with that. This is something very simple and I think quite elegant. It's a square-shaped IWC dress watch. The case has a little bit of a curvature to it too, even though the case back is rather flat. So a very interesting aesthetic on the wrist with short stubby lugs, a black dial that contrasts with the stainless steel case. I think the dimensions are 30 millimeter all over. This is a 60s piece, a square-shaped time and date watch with a self-winding movement from IWC from the 60s, lot 7. The pre-auction estimate sets the value of the watch in a range between 1,500 to 3,000 in euro, and the starting bid is 500 euro. Number 9 is a classic Omega Ploprof from the 70s. The Ploprof name comes from the idea of the French-speaking team that developed the watch, plongeur professionnel, Ploprof. which simply means professional diver. It was a watch, it was a waterproof dive watch that was made for professionals, um, presented in 1970, tested through the rigors of 600 millimeters of depth, and then later 1,000 as well. You'll see that the dial here states 600 meters. It's a very nicely sized, beefy watch with a 55 millimeter diameter. And it has been quite a statement for quite some time. Gianni Agnelli, for example, had an Omega Ploprof, which he famously wore over the cuff of his shirt sleeves, in the same way that he wore his Patek Philippe World Timer, the 1415 HU. He also had Royal Oak Jumbo and many other influential pieces, of course, including a Porsche design chronograph, but the Ploprof was one of his absolute favorites. And I have to say, possibly you can find more photographs of him with either this watch or the Patek Philippe World Time, vis-a-vis some other pieces that he owns, which includes a Cartier Tank Centré as well. This watch also has not yet attracted any bids, but then again, the auction just started earlier today, and we have a little more than 13 more days to go. This is lot 9 for an Omega Ploprof from the 1970s. The estimated value of the watch is set between 7 to 14,000 euro, and the starting bid is 500. Once again, in this online sale, the auction house, Monaco Legend Auctions, decided to forego reserves. So everything is listed, every single lot is listed without reserve. Another interesting piece in white gold from Vacheron Constantin. I absolutely detest this neon green / lime strap on which the watch is mounted, on which it is presented. But otherwise, it's a very beautiful looking watch, very cool looking watch in white gold, 34 by 36 millimeters. Those are the dimensions of the watch. Classic self-winding caliber K1072. Beautifully fluted bezel, very finely fluted. A nice clean dial as well, with a date window at 3 o'clock and sweep center seconds. Cool time and date piece. The case is relatively well preserved as well, even though it's not necessarily pristine. The piece looks good for its age. and most certainly I'm a big fan of those K172, K171, 172 movements. 172 is the date version, if I'm not mistaken, as opposed to the K171, which is the time only. These self-winding movements were used pretty widely by a number of watches by Vacheron Constantin and Audemars Piguet in those years. A lot of Calatrava styled ultra thin pieces. I really like a lot of these examples. This cushion-shaped case in white gold is relatively unique. It's also inscribed with someone's initials on the case back. That's a minor issue, and some people, in fact, started to get intrigued by such historical details. You might be one of them. More power to you in that case. This is lot 11 for a cushion-shaped Vacheron Constantin dress watch in white gold, a reference 7942. Time and date 34 by 36 millimeters. The pre-auction estimate sets the value of the watch between 3,000 to 6,000 euro, and the current bid stands at 600 euros. Madman, thank you so much. In his member chat, he says he has been a member of 8 months. Quite a veteran. Using my member chat now because I rarely get to see YB live. Great stream. And that wasn't enough for him, in fact. He sent in another $20 Australian. Says this is for the UG playlist, which I'm going to enjoy immensely. He is talking about the series of videos I made, including a conversation with Eric Wind on the revival of Universal Genève after the purchase by Breitling. I'm really looking forward to that. As I was saying before, of course, the leak, because of the early leak, they had to get ahead of the news and announce this revival without having even a set in stone idea of what watches that they will revive, re-release, redesign. They don't know. They haven't finalized anything just yet, and I think it might take almost another 2 years before we see any of the actual watches. But because the news of the purchase had leaked, they had to come out in public and announce it themselves. Dr. Bob says Paul Router 2.0 incoming. Yeah, I mean, that was one of the videos I did, right? You know, what watches should they revive? I think most certainly they should have a comprehensive catalog where they include some time-only dress watches, as well as the complicated pieces, the chronographs, for which Universal Genève was, of course, so famous for. Absolutely, but some version of the Paul Router has to come. I mean, everyone is milking the legacy of Gérard Genta, so why not Universal Genève, which does actually hold a claim to a design by a youthful Gérard Genta, right? You know, that piece was commissioned when he was merely 23 years old, and it is It has been long a fan favorite among vintage collectors. A lot of great chronographs. Speaking of chronographs, here's another piece by Longines in that ever so desirable pink on pink combination at lot 15. The piece has a pink dial and a pink case, namely a 34 millimeter pink gold case, a pink dial with Arabic numerals, alpha hands for the hour and minutes, those two centrally deployed hands might make you think or might confuse you to assume that you're looking at a split-second chronograph or something. But in fact, one of those hands is a minute counter. So you have the continuous running seconds at 6 o'clock on a subdial. You have the centrally deployed chronograph seconds hand, and you also have a centrally deployed minute counter, which, of course, ticks after every minute counted. And in this particular case, the single button, the mono pusher, is actually at 2 o'clock rather than being integrated onto the crown. A very interesting design, aesthetically pleasing because of the pink on pink combination. The 34 millimeter case size is ideal for a dress watch, which again is very neatly designed, with the minute indication actually taken care of by an unusually arranged minute hand. Very beautiful piece, classic Longines from the post-war era, right around 1945, with an estimated value in the range between 1 to 2,000 euro. Currently being bid at 500 euro. Dr. Rob's Nightmare says, Rattrapant. No. Yeah, it's not Rattrapant. It's not a split-second chronograph. In fact, one of those centrally deployed hands is a minute counter. A Rattrapant, a split-second, would have another button as well. And the two centrally deployed seconds hand would start concurrently when you activated the chronograph. And then when you hit the split seconds button, one of them would stop and the other would continue to travel, right? This is not one of those, as Dr. Bob was saying there. Again, if I'm skipping over something that you wanted me to look at, that you wanted to highlight, that you wanted to learn more about, here's the link. feel free to take a look at it. We're going to continue with this theme of beautiful Longines chronographs. I was with my friend Alex Grimberg at Cherokee Creek Watches earlier today, and I was looking at a very similar piece, also in yellow gold, but with a black dial and a unique, very unique lug design indeed. But the piece had dimensions that were very similar to this. A dial which is rendered here in champagne, rendered in that particular case in black. This one is a 35 millimeter yellow gold case. The chronograph that I had the chance to try on today was also around the same size. Feels great as a dress watch on the wrist. Precious metal, gold, yellow gold, pink gold, sometimes white gold chronographs of this era. This is, again, beautifully designed with the two chronograph registers, with the continuous running second subdial and the minute totalizer perfectly aligned and perfectly proportioned with the crown. Leaf-styled hands in stainless steel, heat blued, which is also the case with the centrally deployed chronograph seconds hands. Tachymeter surrounds the center of the dial on the periphery. For the chronograph, and this Longines chronograph is actually powered by caliber 13ZN, which has a flyback function. So that means that rather than the usual steps that you would require to reset the chronograph, meaning you would start it with the same pusher at 2 o'clock, stop it with that, and then push the reset button at 4 and push again the button at 2 to restart. You would just push, as the chronograph is running, the button at 4, which would reset everything immediately with the chronograph seconds picking up right away, picking up immediately to start a new cycle. The flyback functionality is great for timing different intervals in quick succession, and they were specifically designed at a time in an era where chronographs were used as navigational instruments, especially in aviation, right? That this is long before GPS. So in fact, that flyback function came quite handy because the pilots had to know exactly how long, at what speed, in which direction they traveled to make sure that they are charting the right path, which of course was a matter of life or death. Thank you, by the way, guys, for all your support, for all these words, all these conversations in the chat. I really appreciate you all. Please hit the like button if you can. And, you know, whether it is in the form of the live streams or some of the other videos, if you want to send the links, if you want to share the links with your friends, with fellow collectors, it would be great. I am really trying to expand the horizons of the channel a little more. I am trying to broaden the community a little more. So any help you can give me in that, with sharing the link on your WhatsApp groups, on social media, with your friends in some other ways, that would help a great deal. And any other kind of support you want to give to the channel, whether it is through the options that YouTube provides you or through the links I drop in the video description, that's of course more than welcome as well. Hey, Dr. Bob, we'll keep building and they will eventually come as well. Der Stiefel, Mr. Boots. Mr. Boots is here. He says, Pimp Daddy Lord in the house. It ain't easy. No shitters allowed. Gran Seco sucks. Hey, man, I started the show. No, I didn't start the show necessarily, but I did talk about some quote unquote shitters in the beginning. I like that price point. Anything less than a grand. Speaking of Grand Seiko, anything less than a grand that is well built, that still has a mechanical movement, and that has an inspired design is very exciting to me. And I think there's room in a lot of people's collections for some quote unquote shitters. Even though I don't particularly like using that language, of course. We are looking at the Monaco Legend Auction July online sale. Everything starts at 500, no reserve. And this is lot 22 for a Longines flyback chronograph with the caliber 13 set N from 1940 with straight lugs, a 35 millimeter yellow gold case, estimated value between 2,000 to 4,000 euros, currently being bid at 700. Lot 23 is another Longines flyback chronograph. This one is in fact powered by caliber 30 CH, which is apparently the last movement to be totally in-house produced by Longines, introduced in 1947, here housed in an 18 karat pink gold case, 37 millimeters in diameter. The watch is from 1951. As you can see, the styling, the dimensions are a little more quote-unquote modern compared to some of the other Longines chronographs that we have covered in this episode as part of this auction. The piece has a beautiful stepped bezel and a kind of a fancy lug design as well, which adds to the wrist presence of the piece. A silver dial with applied Arabic numerals at 12 and 6. A multimeter scale, a multi-scale chronograph with a telemeter scale for measurement of distance that wraps itself around the center of the dial, inscribed in red. And on the periphery of the dial, inscribed in blue, you have the tachymeter, a 30-minute counter at 3 o'clock, and continuous running seconds at 9. Completes this picture. Dauphine hands for minutes and seconds, and of course a centrally deployed chronograph seconds hand that matches the gold tones of the case. Very beautiful piece. The case itself is nicely preserved as well, which never hurts. You can attest to that when you look under the right upper lug, where the hallmark is so crisp. And again, one of the things I like about chronographs of a certain era is, once more, how the registers at 3 and 9 o'clock are so perfectly aligned in terms of their placement with the crown, and the proportions here are lovely as well in terms of the size of the crown and the size of the chronograph sundials as well. Ryan Joffrey says, Grand Seiko is so good. I want a quartz Grand Seiko. The spring drive is certainly a very interesting and groundbreaking technology, and quartz bores me to death. Grand Seiko is awesome sauce and needs no validation. Look, I agree. For me, I like playing along with Der Stiefel because I just love the character. And I like playing along with it, saying, my opinion on Grand Seiko is that I would never pay more than $1,000 for a Seiko, but it is my own mental hang-up, right? For me, for years, and still until this day, I have associated Seiko with great entry-level watches, beaters that I love wearing around, that are sporty, rugged, that I wear to the gym basically on a daily basis. Anyway, I love them to death, but I don't necessarily think of Grand Seiko as I perhaps should when I venture out to think of more luxurious and more complicated pieces, even though obviously Grand Seiko's range between the spring drive pieces, the GMT watches, the various beautifully executed dials, has so much to offer in terms of both chronographs, even more recently, the tourbillon. They have everything to offer in terms of aesthetics and techniques too. It's really my personal problem that I'm not necessarily a huge fan of Grand Seiko, even though I'm still a great fan. Ryan Joffrey says, 100% agree, Dr. Bob, that more people should be here. The great thing about YB is he'll put on the same quality show for 5 or 205 people. You said it. You know that I always talk about things that I love, that I know a great deal about, and the quality, as you said, is consistent. I've never had more than, I never had anywhere near 200, 205 viewers here, but that principle remains the same, right? For me, I don't look at that number at all. I just focus on what I'm talking about. I just focus on talking to people. If I have people in the panel, if I'm interviewing with someone, getting the most out of that time that they have given me, out of that interaction that we are having. That will never change about this channel, and that's something that I will always remain proud of. For me, anything else is secondary. Obviously, since I've gone full time with this, there's an increasing need have more people and to hopefully get more eyeballs on the channel, and therefore also more super chats as people come here and come to appreciate the kind of content I produce. But again, a lot of that will come in time. We're looking at a lot of Longines, but when it comes to a certain genre of vintage watches, that is one of the biggest legacy brands, of course. The chronographs, I don't need to tell you about their pioneering achievements and their popularity in a seemingly bygone era. But of course, Longines has also produced a number of very interesting time-only watches, and were at an important point, in fact, on the vanguard of chronometric precision for mechanical watches as well. All of that being said, you're looking at a time-only piece in stainless steel with a 34 millimeter diameter case, a two-tone silver dial with alternating double arrow shaped and Arabic numeral hour markers, sweep center seconds. The dial clearly has seen better days, but I don't think it's unattractive in its patina, in its aging. A self-winding piece that's quite compact and rather sleek as well. And again, it's one of the interesting bargains that are listed in this selection, in this curation. This is lot 24 for a Longines time-only stainless steel dress watch. Beautiful three-hander with a two-tone silver dial, reference 2309, with an estimated value that is set in the range between 500 to 1,000 euro. The watch has not yet attracted any bids, but the starting bid stands at 500 euro. Dr. Bob says, adding to the earlier Seiko discussion, this Longines has very King Seiko looking lines. King Seiko is an interesting sub-brand as well. Lot 25 is one of those watches that we were talking about earlier, the so-called cocktail watches, the disco volante, sometimes they're called, which is the word for flying saucer, UFO, so to speak, in Italian. Now, a lot of these watches came on integrated bracelets, but not all of them. Here in lot 25, you're seeing Disco Volante by Vacheron Constantin in yellow gold, a reference 4642, 35 millimeters in diameter, and it is presented on a black calfskin leather strap, the matching tank buckle with the design that harkens to the symbol of the brand is also part of the package, the Maltese cross. The watch comes with an archival extract that confirms its date of manufacture its year of manufacture as 1954. The piece has a very nicely and warmly patinated champagne dial that has this sort of darkening on the periphery, which adds the dial some warmth. At 9 o'clock, there's a portrait that depicts the Saudi king, Saud ibn Abdulaziz, who had acceded to the throne in 1953. And at 3 o'clock, there's also the royal insignia that has a palm tree over a pair of crossed daggers. The Maltese cross is also present at 12 o'clock above the signature of the brand. And our markers are obus shaped with a pearled track for the minutes along the periphery of the dial. Seconds indicated on a subdial at 6 o'clock. This is how the leather strap gets attached to the watch, which therefore, from the full frontal look, retains that perfectly round, lugless shape. This is lot 25 for a Vacheron Constantin Disco Volante in yellow gold, presented on a leather strap with a matching tang buckle, 35 millimeters in diameter, a reference 4642, that was commissioned in the early 50s by the then Saudi king. The estimated value of the piece is somewhere in the range between 3,500 to 7,000 euro, and the starting bids would be 500 euro for this watch. Dr. Bob's Nightmare says, aren't pictures of people frowned upon in Muslim countries? Drawings of animal and such is like a sin? No? All right, I'm not going to go into intricacies of Muslim theology, of course. It's not my business. It's not my place. I know some stuff about it, but that's really a long story. What I'm going to say is this: what is really frowned upon and is an absolute no-no is any depiction of the Prophet, period. If there are any sort of visual depictions of the Prophet let's say, some significant scenes depicted from his life, you will in fact see his face being completely blocked out. Obviously, the ban on the graven image, so to speak, which is also a monotheistic precept that has been solidified by Judaism in the first place, which is more my thing, is very much taken over by Islam as well. Although I have to say, in modern age, people have made a lot of exceptions, and royal portraiture, paintings of prominent politicians and sovereigns certainly have been part of those exceptions. But yes, is it a contradiction, especially with the kind of ideology that the Saudi regime has propounded for decades? Sure. Especially in the 50s, things have changed just a little bit more recently, but yeah, you probably have a point there, but it's not my place to really parse the contradictions at any significant length. Lot 26, actually, this can be an interesting point to discuss the new version of the Mayetic that Longines released, because you guys know, and you guys know I really did like when they did kind of re-release it or reinterpret it, I think already a couple of years ago almost. This was a pilot's watch that a number of different brands had supplied to the Czechoslovakian Air Force. And they were inscribed on the case back with this phrase that marked it as the property of. Majetek is the word for the Czech word for property, apparently, so it's stuck. But this kind of cushion-shaped case design that we are going to see in the Longines watch now is very much like the pilot Majetek. This has a timing bezel with an inner triangle like indicator pointer to time minutes. The original version that they re-released as the modern tribute, 43 millimeters in diameter, was in stainless steel and had this kind of vintage inspired aesthetic that had this sort of eggshell faux tina for the Arabic numerals over against the black dial. Now, apparently they have just released another version of this watch, which is a little more modern and much less of an homage to the original pilot's watch. Same dimensions, same aesthetic. However, this piece is in titanium and has this sort of 50 Shades of Grey theme, this sort of quasi-monochromatic aesthetic that makes it look so much more contemporary as opposed to the kind of vintage-inspired tributes that the Pilot Mayetic was when they re-released it as an homage. This is a limited edition, again, in titanium. Same case dimensions, same design in terms of this cushion slash turtle case. And to complement that rather grayscale or quasi-monochromatic palette of the watch, it is actually also presented on sailcloth style black strap as well. Unfortunately, as is usually the case with titanium watches, it does have a premium, which in this case is rather hefty, I have to say. I think, right under 4,000 for the original tribute, 3,850, I think, is the list price, is already quite a bit for a time-only watch, I think, of this kind of caliber. The titanium version, which also happens to be a limited edition of 953 pieces, again, that is a tip of the hat to the origin of the watch, is priced at 5,000 US dollars. So it's a little bit pushing into the territory where some people might think that it doesn't perhaps provide such great value, but I think it at least offers something a little more than just a colorway. Different material, completely different feel. I have tried the original tributes. I don't know. It felt great, but this seems something more original and potentially more interesting as a contemporary sports watch. It's more in the range of like a Panerai alternative, I guess, than just being an homage kind of piece. It does have that sort of oversized, sporty, rugged edge with a unique aesthetic, which I do appreciate, even though the $5,000 price point might turn off quite a bit of people. Now, we go back to the Longines that for us started this discussion. This is lot 26 for the Monaco Legend auction, the July online sale that has practically just started and is going to conclude in the US at least in the AM on July 22nd. This is a cushion-shaped case for a military-style Longines dress watch. The case is a wristwatch, I meant to say. The case is in stainless steel and 40 millimeters in diameter. The modern version is 43 millimeters. It's presented here on a bunt style strap I don't think this one has, in fact, a rotational bezel, which might be good because the original versions of the Mayetek had this mechanism where that bezel was in fact turning with the crystal, and that wasn't so good for the waterproofness or water tightness of the case. So this is actually good news that it's not designed in that particular way. This version, again, doesn't have any military issue numbers or inscriptions on the back. So it's understood to be a civilian version of the Mayetek, of the watch that Longines supplied at the time for the Czechoslovakian Air Force. Oversized case, cushion-shaped or turtle-shaped case, 40 millimeters in diameter, in stainless steel. Coin edge finish on the bezel. Which is apparently rotating, but I don't see the pointer, the indicator inside, so I don't know rotating for what, or whether I'm missing or whether it is missing the pointer. Great piece, seconds on the subdial at 6, oversized Arabic numerals, railroad track for the minutes. Again, that coin-edged finish on the bezel. This is lot 26 for a Longines cushion-shaped military-style watch, 40 millimeters in stainless steel with a black dial, reference 3582. The pre-auction estimate sets the value of the watch between $1,500 to $3,000, and the current bid stands at $500 for lot 26. Memovox, thank you so much. Hundreds Danish crowns. Thank you. I really appreciate you. Van Lux says before that, 50 Shades of Grey. Why effing B? Nice to see you, Van Lux. Please hit the like button. We are in the last 50 minutes of our broadcast today. I want to draw your attention to an Art Deco inspired rectangular piece by Movado, lot 28. I'll take a very short, very quick break. Please hit the like button in the meantime. It really helps. It makes all the difference for a smaller channel like this. And if you have any questions, if you want to support the channel in other ways, you know how already. I really do appreciate you. Hit the like button. I will be back in 2 minutes. Did I forget to? Did I forget to? Did I forget to mute it? That's great. You know, I run out of juice. No pun intended. For these microphones, once every so often. I wish that happened just now. That would be nice. Well, at least I didn't take you visually into the bathroom as well. That's amazing. At least I wasn't talking to myself or like, talking shit about someone else. That's great. Man, you gotta hydrate. You gotta hydrate. What can I do? Hit the like button for some live urination, man. Come on. This is entertainment. This is show business. Lot 28 for the Movado Art Deco inspired rectangular watch, Ultraplan reference 33833. This is a stainless steel piece from 1930s. The dimensions are 19 by 36. The font for the Arabic numerals is quite distinct and I would say endearing. And as it is the case with some reversos, and this is something I really like, the subdial for the seconds at 6 mirrors the rectangular shape of the case and of the larger dial as well. And everything is complemented beautifully with the railroad style track for the minutes. Mike says only Marcelo does visual in the washroom. Amazing. Incredible. Again, the lugs are ever so slightly curved, which helps the watch sit very nicely on the wrist, even though the case back is largely flat. But this is one of the better preserved examples of pieces presented in this auction, lot 28, from an Art Deco inspired Movado Ultraplan rectangular dress watch in stainless steel, 19 by 36 millimeters, with these unique, oversized, stylized Arabic numerals and a railroad track for the minutes, as well as a rectangular subdial for the seconds. The piece is yet to attract any bids, but the estimated value is set in the range between €500 to 1,000. At lot 31, we're looking at a cushion-shaped Hoya chronograph, namely a Camaro. The piece has a very interesting two-tone dial with a silvered center and a gray flange for The tachymeter, a 30-minute totalizer on a slightly sunken subdial at 3 o'clock, with the minutes indicated by an orange hand. Continuous running seconds at 9, and a date indicator at 6 o'clock. Centrally deployed chronograph seconds hand is actually in stainless steel and heat blued. The piece is presented on a stainless steel bracelet, which is made by Gefrère, presumably matching with the case. 37 millimeters again for this stainless steel cushion-shaped case from the 70s. Hoya Camaro with a beautiful two-tone dial as well. 2 registers complemented with a date indicator at 3 o'clock. The pre-auction estimate sets the value of the watch between 2,000 to 4,000 euro. Here's the Gefrère bracelet. With the Hoya logo on the clasp. The starting bid is at 500. Once again, the auction is going to close early in the morning for us stateside on July 22nd. Later in the day for the Europeans among us. It has just started. This is the July online sale by the Monaco Legend Auctions. Kind of an occasion for them to throw together in a way a lot of these vintage pieces that they haven't been able to place in their premier events, but there are some interesting finds still. Pieces are presented with no reserve, with bidding starting at 500 euro. There's some 120 lots. So if you want to direct my attention to any particular watches, if you want to highlight anything, please feel free to send in the lot number. Wait, what's going on in the chat? Memovox says, reminded me of the Austin Powers urination scene. Amazing. It's that's a legend. I'm proud to be compared. Ryan Joffrey talks about Van Lux and Dirk Diggler fighting over a woman, I think. Van Lux, we are both 40, huh? I'm turning 40 in November, of course. You're turning 40 in a little more than a week. Ryan Joffrey asks, what did Rancher do? Take a loud dump on the stream? And Ryan Joffrey says, awesome for Van Lux turning 40. Take lots of pics. I want on stream and proved I'm not that Holden guy. You went on stream, I guess. Okay. I don't know about that conversation, Ryan. I'm sorry. Vanlux says, I have lots of pics for you. I was just in Vegas for my birthday. How can I get them to you? Archie has my contact, JJ as well. If you contact them via email, they can connect us. Having caught up with some of the chat, let's come back to the auction. This is lot 35 for a Rolex Zephyr with that crosshair dial and coin-edged bezel, which is also which has also those engraved graduation for all 60 minutes. This is Rolex Zephyr reference 1008 from year 1959, 34 millimeters in diameter of a yellow gold case, self-winding movements, a very unique design for a Rolex. The Zephyr. The case itself is relatively well preserved. The dial is not the worst, but certainly has seen better days. An interesting piece with a pre-auction estimate set in the range between 3,000 to 6,000 euro, being bid at 500 euros right now. Lot 36 has another Longines flyback chronograph powered by caliber 13ZN. The dial, unfortunately, is not in the most attractive shape, but the leaf-shaped, heat-blued stainless steel hands look quite gorgeous. This is an interesting mobile lugs design with a 33 millimeter diameter yellow gold case. Kind of like floating lugs with the outside of those, or with the lugs specifically, moving to allow the watch to sit more snugly on the wrist. Very cool piece. At least the movements and case design has a lot to salvage, even if the dial condition is not absolutely desirable. This is lot 36 for a Longines yellow gold flyback chronograph from 1940s. The estimated value of the watch is between 2,000 to 4,000 euro. And the bidding currently stands at 600 euro as well. No, Ryan, because I can see it, but I can't say it. Here's the thing: when you put addresses, emails, etc., it will hold it back, because if you are not a moderator on the channel, it doesn't allow you to share these things. If you want me to share it, I can click show immediately, and then you can share it. I can see it right now. I can see it. It's like 2 words, a 3-digit number at yahoo.com. Just so you know, I'm not fucking with you. You know, I can see it. It's like, you know, it describes you as a nice person, so to speak. 3-digit number at yahoo.com. So I can see it. I can release it for a second if you guys are ready. I got it. Vanlux can't see it though, because you are not a moderator on the channel, so it doesn't allow you to share these kinds of things. Lot 37 is one of my favorite pieces on the auction. This is a Rolex Day-Date with a stunning salmon dial. Lot 37, reference 18039 B, a white gold piece with a pink dial, Roman numerals, Italian day wheel, and the bezel as well as the lugs are set with brilliant cut diamonds. A very striking piece from roughly year 1984. The piece is presented on a leather strap. But it does look quite sharp. Lot 37 for a white gold Rolex Day-Dates with a salmon dial, diamond sets on the lugs and the bezel. Reference 18039B. The piece is being bid at $500 right now. The auction has, after all, just started basically less than a day ago. And it has about 13 days to conclude on July 22nd. It's going to be in the AM for us Americans. The estimated value of the piece at lot 37 is somewhere between 7,000 to 14,000 in euro. And the piece is being bid at 500 euro right now. We are entering the last okay, Ryan, I think you don't understand what I'm trying to say. Only I can see it. If I don't release it, no one else can see it. Would you like me to release it? You did not answer me. So, you know, you gotta let me know, because if I say release, then everyone else can see it, and it is what it is, you know. Another Longines chronograph. This one actually is also in that minimalist style at lot 46. a multi-scale dial that incorporates a tachymeter on the periphery and a telemeter scale as well, in a concentric circle that wraps around the center dial. A 32 millimeter yellow gold case powered by caliber 1268Z. The case itself is very nicely preserved. The dial has seen better days, but at least is evenly patinated. Okay, send it again and I will release it. Send it again because the system holds it back for a while and then it retracts it. So put it in the chat, I will release it immediately. This is lot 46 for a single button monopusher Longines chronograph with a multimeter scale on the dial. I like the two-tone dial with the two different scales inscribed in different colors. The Arabic numerals, I think overall it's a very cool design. All right, I released it now. Take it, Vanlux. If you say done, I will remove it immediately. Did you get Ryan's email, Vanlux? Lot 46 has an estimated value between 1 to 2,000. All right, remove the email now. And lot 46 is currently being bid at 500 euro. The last 25 minutes or so, let me know if you guys have any urgent questions, if you want to highlight anything from this auction that I didn't cover yet and that I might not get the chance or get the time to cover before the end of tonight's live stream. Send those in with a super chat, if you will, and I will do my best to cover it. Hit the like button. Share the link and help us grow this community. And if you want to support the channel in other ways, you know how. I won't belabor the points. We have about 25 minutes, which gives us time to maybe discuss 5 more watches. Let's do one on the Memovox. This is the famous alarm wristwatch by JLC, by Gégé Lecoutre. I really like this design. I really like this complication as well. I have, in fact, done an episode on this with my friend Charlie Dunn from Vintage. So if you want to listen to our conversation from about a year ago, you can do that on your time on the JLC Memovox. The link is there. And Memovox directs our attention, by the way, to lot 114. Let's do that right after this one, if you don't mind, Memovox, since I already started. I really like the design of this because it has that peculiar fonts on the Roman numerals as they find their place at 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock with the X, with the number 10 specifically, looking very much like an hourglass at 9 o'clock. Of course, the stick left to that 10 makes it number 9 for 9 o'clock. That's counterbalanced with the date window at 3 o'clock. There's also the JL logo and the Lecoutre signature at 12 o'clock. The double crown design, one is for the setting of the alarm, which turns around to set, which turns the center dial around to set the alarm with some kind of accuracy. And the second crown is, of course, to set the time itself. Sweep center seconds. This piece has a self-winding movement, and it comes with a 37 millimeter stainless steel case. Beautiful design. I love the Roman numerals on this one, as I mentioned. I have seen, this piece has seen better days, and I have seen JLC Memovoxes in better condition. The case is actually quite nice. The deal and the hands could have been better. But I think the estimation, the valuation of the piece reflects that as well. This is lot 50 for a Jaeger LeCoultre Memovox in stainless steel. The estimated value is between 1,000 to 2,000 in euro, and the starting bid is 500 euros. Ryan Joffrey, thank you as well. $2. We need to spread the word for you, YB. Great stuff. Thank you. So now let's go back to Memovox's suggestion that we go to 114. Lot 114. Where is that? Ah, this is amazing. This is amazing, guys. This is a great piece, styled very much like a Blancpain 50 Fathoms. Lip is a French watch and clock company that had kind of its I think its heyday in the 60s, but it was already running into financial troubles then, and certainly in the 70s as well. I think it's been revived somehow, but of course, the legacy of the watch is the legacy of the company. The history of the company is probably much more significant than its current state, than its current iteration. You might know these lip pieces from a lot of their chronographs. Possibly, but this is in fact a dive watch, which originates from a collaboration that Lip did in 1950s with Blancpain. The dial states as much as Brevet Blancpain, Blancpain patent at 6 o'clock. The design is very close, very approximate to the Blancpain 50 Fathoms, one of the original dive watches, certainly one of the most iconic and recognizable. Of course, introduced again in 1953, very much like the Submariner. Lip was itself already responsible for distributing the 50 Fathoms in France. And some of these watches were in fact inscribed with the Lip logo at 12 o'clock and Brevet Blancpain at 6, as you can see here. I really love the styling of this watch. The Arabic numerals at the quarters are amazing. The fonts chosen for those are great. The obelisk hands are again very stunning and unique. This is kind of like, reminiscent of perhaps syringe hands, but with a little more belly, I would say. Of course, their general shape is reminiscent of the obelisk, so hence the name. I also like this larger luminous backdrop for number 12. And of course, you have that beautiful, distinct bakelite insert on the dive timing bezel as well, with the triangle itself made of luminous material too. Yeah, this is amazing. This particular piece is from 1960s, I believe, but the origins of the 50 Fathoms as the design goes to 1953. That's why that collaboration between Swatch and Blancpain was done last year, and it was part of the 70th anniversary celebrations of the model by Blancpain too. And as you guys know, they made a number of releases of their own. Memovox says it's only 34 millimeters, which is why it's priced as it is. Yeah, I mean, look, with vintage watches, anything under 36 millimeters, especially if it's a sports watch, is inevitably going to be less desirable to the average buyer. But, we have been looking at a lot of the watches that have been presented, that have been curated for this auction, this sale. Frankly, this watch is one of the better preserved ones. The dial is not not undesirable at all. It is actually rather clean. The case too, if you look at the engravings on the case back, They are so crisp still that the watch hasn't been too enthusiastically polished over time. And the design is very unique, even though it's also very recognizably Blancpain as well. Even though it's very recognizably, even though it bears that family resemblance. I'm sorry, I'm blanking out on my words a little bit, which of course is much less embarrassing than peeing live on the stream. But again, my apologies. But yes, it's both a very unique piece, very well preserved, but also something that carries on that legacy, that bears that stamp, that bears that family resemblance to one of the most iconic, to one of the original modern dive watches. So a great choice, Memovox. That was lot 114, Lip X Blancpain, a 34 millimeter stainless steel classic dive watch. With an estimated value between 1,000 to 2,000 euro. The watch is currently being bid at 600 euro. Too much sparkling water indeed. That's right. That's right. Hit the like button. Hit the like button for girly wrists, sparkling water, and pissing live. Amazing. This is show business, folks. Live entertainment. All bets are off. Who knows? Who knows? Thankfully, I don't have my girl on the premises. God knows what I would have done in that little pause that we have taken. Again, a piece where it is kind of a shame that the dial itself is not so well preserved, but you are looking at a vintage Reverso. This is lot 53. A 30s Reverso in stainless steel. Again, the origins of the Reverso is in the early 30s, with the first model being released in 1931. This is a stainless steel number with a black dial, oversized Arabic numerals, and a railroads style track for the minutes. And of course, a plain case back in matching material. A beautiful piece. Shame that the dial hasn't been preserved more immaculately. This is lot 53 for a 30s Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso in stainless steel. The pre-auction estimate sets the value of the watch somewhere between 3,000 to 6,000 euro, and the current bids is 500 euro. Rick Foss says, why is there no estimated year of production? There is. It says 1930s. I'm sure they could, for some of these pieces, actually get an archival extract. In some cases, there is actually an archival extract, whether it's produced in the pictures or not. It does say in the lot essay a lot of times, saying includes or accompanied by an extract from the archive. But sometimes specific dates are hard to establish without that sort of archival help. We have about 7 more minutes, 3 more watches. I think I have my eye on 3 more pieces, maybe. If something else comes in the form of a request, here's the link if you want to highlight any lots. Yeah, Ryan. gives a whole new meaning to the word stream, doesn't it? Oh dear. This is lot 61 for a Doxa chronograph in stainless steel. The piece is from 60s, is powered by a 14 linear caliber, relatively oversized for its time, 38 millimeters in diameter for its stainless steel case. One of the better preserved examples in the entire selection, both in terms of the condition of the dial and the case. The sector dial includes 2 different scales with the telemeter inscribed on the periphery of the dial and the tachymeter snailed into the center of the dial. The subdials are small and quite elegant. A 30-minute totalizer at 3 o'clock and continuous running seconds at 9 o'clock. Beautifully aligned and perfectly proportioned in relation to the crown. A very beautiful watch. Again, quite well preserved. I mean, the watch may have seen some polish, but it has not been withered away by excessive polishing over the years. It is matched with a 7-row style beads of rice bracelet with straight end links. And it has a relatively higher estimate set between 5,000 to 10,000 in euro. This Doxa chronograph from the 60s with a multimeter scale on the dial, 38 millimeters of a stainless steel case, is currently being bid at 600 euro. Van Lux, thank you so much. 279 Canadian. Last time I got lucky with, what kind of question is that, Van Lux? I do have a girlfriend, you know, nowadays, so it's I'm lucky to have her, and I get lucky every time I see her. I get luckier. Bookstream diuretics, the theory of matter over mind. Well, Matter over mind, indeed. Yes, the bladder won over, and my mind certainly lost. But yeah, look, Van Lux, I might not be much of a looker, but I've always done okay. I've always done okay. Lot 63 is Weiler, or rather Weiler Veta. This brand, I think, exists as a Phoenix brand now, exists as a revived brand, but is certainly one of those darlings of Italian vintage collectors. This chronograph is very much in the genre of the Doxa piece that we were looking at just now. It does have a similarly proportioned case in stainless steel, 38 millimeters in diameter, but I think the design of this watch with the thinner bezel has an even more dramatic aesthetic in terms of appearing larger because of the larger dial. Beautiful silver dial with Arabic numerals and a telemeter scale for the chronograph. 3 chronograph registers, including a 12-hour counter at 6 o'clock, a 30-minute totalizer at 3, and continuous running seconds at 9. I really like the aesthetic of this piece. It kind of reminds me of some JLC chronographs from around the same time period as well. There's some great JLC chronographs from the 50s that have more or less similar looks, and maybe their case size is a little smaller than this, but very, very cool watch here. Lot 63 for a Weiler Veta, reference 5321. This is a 50s chronograph in stainless steel, oversized case, 38 millimeters in diameter. Estimated value is set between 2 to 4,000 US dollars. And the piece is currently being bid at 500 euros. Okay, the very, very last piece. I love you too, Van Lux. I really like your sense of humor. Ryan Joffrey says he gets lucky a lot, apparently. Hey, there are advantages of being monogamous. When you have a good relationship, when you are on a good frequency with your partner, it's the best. It is the best. We are looking at the last piece from today's selection. I think I will continue to cover this auction as well, hopefully tomorrow too. We have gone back to a relatively regular schedule with the live streams, which is something that I'm really happy about, and hopefully something that I will be able to keep, except for Wednesday and Thursday nights usually. But hopefully with this month, we will have caught up, and by next month, hopefully we will have a schedule that's set in stone. Lot 70 is a single button, a monopusher chronograph from the 1940s, a Movado piece, 34 millimeters in diameter. Apparently, the case material is silver, which has aged and darkened into this kind of murdered outlook. Interesting contrast, which with that dial, especially because everything else about the watch is absolutely conservative, absolutely classical, from the Breguet numerals to the spade set of hands, heat blues with that elegantly twisted minutes hand. Just, you know, even the design of the crown, the way the monopusher is integrated into that, all of that is very much oozing with vintage charm. The patina of the silver case, however, is like a contemporary DLC treated titanium beast, which is very interesting because this is actually a 1940s Movado chronograph with a silver case. It also has a stunning vintage hinged case back that allows you to peek onto the movements. A column wheel chronograph movement that is activated by a single button. The dial again is beautiful in its classical appearance, kind of an off-white with Breguet numerals painted in black for color marker, for hour markers. The second scale inscribed in black, and on the perimeter you have inscribed in red the tachymeter, and as mentioned, the handset of the watch is fashioned out of stainless steel and is heat blued. Very, very interesting piece. And as you can see, once again, that distinctive Breguet font. The tail of the 4, once again, is like a plus sign. It's like a cross. You see, that's kind of one of the easiest ways of ensuring that it is, in fact, the Breguet numerals. But, you know, the styling is so distinctive that you don't even have to look for these sorts of nuances once your eye is trained for it. This is lot 70 for Movado monopusher chronograph with a beautifully patinated 34 millimeter stainless steel case, Breguet numerals, a spade set of hands with the single button neatly integrated onto the crown. The watch has not yet attracted any bids, but there's about 13 days to go. The pre-auction estimate sets the value of the watch somewhere between 2,000 to 4,000 euro. Yeah, Dr. Bob's Nightmare says, how far Movado has fallen. They keep sending me that damn commercial. Yeah, I think I know what commercial you mean. Unfortunately, the identity of the brand has completely become that museum watch. with that silly thing at 12 o'clock. Ryan Joffrey also says, so sick of that cheap-looking Gérard Jantin wannabe Movado commercial. All right, so this vintage Movado piece was, in fact, the very last watch that I was going to cover today. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your understanding. I'm sorry about the blunder earlier. I know you guys have a sense of humor about it, and I'm trying to play it off, but it's not cool, obviously. So I hope you can forgive me for that. I do apologize. But it was seriously where where the bladder won over the mind. So I hope it's that sort of one-time exclusive. Anyway, please hit the like button on the way out. If you have any comments, any questions, anything at all, please drop in the comments after the live stream ends. Those are really helpful. They bring a little bit of a boost. They bring a few more eyeballs, a few more sets of eyeballs, let's say, to the channel. It's always fantastic. If you share the links, if you help me expand the community, that would be perfect. If you want to support the channel on YouTube, you know all the options. The membership gives you exclusive access to an ever-expanding archive of exclusive content, so that's always great. Of course, there are super chats, super stickers. With that in mind, I'm really grateful to Jilden, Dr. Bob's Nightmare, Madman with both his member chats and super chats, Memovox with his 2 super chats. He's also a member as well, and so is Dr. Bob's Nightmare, and Van Lux 2, and Ryan Joffrey also added a super chat to that. All of these are extremely valuable to me. If you want to support the channel in other ways, those alternatives are listed in the video description with the links that you can find right there. If you have any requests, if you have any questions, anything at all, the best way of contacting me is either writing a comment under any of the videos and live streams, or just following me on Instagram and sending me a DM there. I really appreciate you. If you give me some likes on Instagram, that of course helps a lot too. The jokes continue. Dr. Bob says, good show, heavy flow nights. Rick Foss says, I missed that bit. Well, you can always rewind for better or worse. Ryan Joffrey says, Godspeed. Gotta do another Bond thing ASAP with more detailed clothing talk. I'll see what I can do, but that has to be it. Van Lyck says he dumped a jug of water into his toilet. We know it was fake because it sounded super manly. Yes, there's no way I have that kind of urinary jet. You're absolutely right. Ryan Joffrey says he took a manly loud piss. It's amazing. Dr. Bob says, where's the merch store in need a YB plushie? That's an interesting idea. We should have some merch. We should have some. Dr. Bob says someone timestamp it. Exactly. Timestamp it. Drop it in the comments. We need a nice clip. I need to listen to it. Damn it. I was present when it happened, but I need to know where it is, when it is in the live stream, so I can memorialize it for posterity. Jilden says upvotes. Yes, please upvote on the way out. I will see you in the next one. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, wear and enjoy your watches. Goodbye.